Welcome to this special show on BQ Prime. I'm Tamanna Inamdar, and before markets open today, the question is that how are markets going to digest the exit polls that were released last night after polling ended for elections in the assembly of 5 states of this country. Now, just a quick 2-second context. These elections are being keenly watched, even though they're assembly elections to states, because it's coming so close to the big Lok Sabha election in 2024. It's being seen as a precursor, as a semi-final. Now, in that semi-final, we have the first sort of rush of numbers on who could win. Having said that, exit polls are not really accurate. 50% of the polls in 2018 on these same states got it wrong. But we have come up with a poll of polls where we've averaged some of the major polls across networks to give you an idea of what's happening. So before I come to my guests, I'm going to quickly take you through those poll of polls. According to this, in Madhya Pradesh, which has a 230-seat assembly, needs a majority of 116. The BJP could come back with 124. This is the big one that might move the markets today because the BJP already has served 4 terms here. If they come back for a 5th term, that tells you that pro-incumbency is really a factor. In Rajasthan, the BJP is expected to win with 104 seats. This is an average, remember, poll of polls. And the Congress with 85 seats. This was expected. Rajasthan flips every 5 years between BJP and Congress. So by that logic, this was the BJP's turn. Chhattisgarh, the Congress is expected to retain its government over there under Bhupesh Baghel with 49 seats. This was also largely expected and factored in. Telangana, though, will be the big story because according to most polls, the Congress is expected to come to power in Telangana, where the BRS, led by KCR, has been running the state since its inception in 2014. So as per this, it's pretty much a 2 versus 2 score between BJP and Congress. Mizoram has also had an election, and as per the polls, it will be a hung assembly. Now, what do we make of all of this? What does it mean for markets? What does it mean really for the elections in 2024? To speak on this, I'm joined now by Aditi Phadnis, contributing editor of Business Standard, and Chakri Lokapriya with me this morning, MD at TCG AMC. Welcome to both of you, and thank you so much for speaking with us on the show ahead of markets open. I'm going to take a quick take first from Aditi on what is your assessment of the exit polls with the regular caveats that these are definitely not the results. But do you think it's giving us a sense that the BJP is, when it fights on Modi's name, is fairly comfortable? Because that's the cue that the markets are wondering.
Well, first of all, yes, of course, whichever election BJP fights on Prime Minister's name, it has an added edge. But it fought in the Prime Minister's name in Telangana, where the exit polls are not giving it a very good response. It also fought with the Prime Minister's name very much in Mizoram, where BJP is nowhere. So this election is more about what puzzles me about the exit poll outcome is the fact that welfare has not worked uniformly. You know, governments spend a lot on welfare. This is an issue which matters a lot to the markets, because if government spending goes up on seemingly unproductive spending, then it has less by way of spending on the real issues and particularly on reform. So in Madhya Pradesh, for instance, a lot of money was spent in the Ladli Behna scheme, which is basically a kind of a cash transfer for women. And Madhya Pradesh, the BJP seems to have done very well. So this scheme clearly has been very popular, despite very high levels of corruption, which were reported during this election campaign, which the Congress has made a big cause celebrate. Similarly, in Chhattisgarh, welfare spending has shown results, but it has not shown the same results in Telangana, where enormous amounts of money was spent on welfare by the BRS, but the BRS is clearly losing on. So this is a fact which is puzzling me somewhat,
Right.
and I think we need more research to get to the bottom of this.
Fair enough. So there's no one size fits all kind of takeaway that we can have on the face of it. Chakri, what would markets be looking at? Rajasthan was factored in, one presumes, but if BJP does come back in Madhya Pradesh after 4 terms, after not really fighting the election on a very strong chief minister's face like Shivraj Singh Chauhan, but making it about Prime Minister Modi with a good margin, is that something markets will respond positively to as per the exit polls?
Good morning. The markets have been moving in the last 1 or 2 years based on the very strong infrastructure spend that the central governments and state governments have been spending in various states. Now, on the back of that, in the current, if as long as BJP retains its Madhya Pradesh, and if there is a surprise in Rajasthan, then it's a clear positive because they are big states in terms of their contribution to Rajya Sabha seats, and that helps the center to pass bills that it needs to. So outside of that, I think Telangana is a surprise if it turns out to be true, and because it's been a state which has been contributing to the national GDP, it's one of the top states in terms of GDP growth. Mizoram is small, so as long as MP retains Rajasthan, there is a positive surprise there. In that case, the markets like it.
Yeah. So between Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, you're going to have about 54 Lok Sabha seats. And interesting to note that BJP was never a real contender in Telangana. Chakri, are you looking at it this way that the BRS, which is the incumbent government, would have supported the BJP more in policy decisions? What exactly are the cues that market is looking for today?
You're right, Tamanna, in terms of that, while BRS has been a neutral party, it has kind of supported BJP on some of the major bills or abstained. So from that perspective, it has kind of been a help from that perspective on policy decisions. From that perspective, that's the only perspective in which the markets would look at it. But as long as I think Rajasthan and MP are in the back, that should be good for the markets.
Okay, so Rajasthan, like I said, was sort of expected. Aditi, Rajasthan was sort of expected because, it flips every 5 years. And as per the exit polls so far, are you getting comfort about the outcome in Rajasthan, or do you think it's still a close race?
I think it's still a close race because the reports coming from Rajasthan indicate that the Gehlot government is still quite popular. The fact that the BJP has been unable or has been unwilling to project the chief minister's face, although it doesn't do it in states where it's in opposition, but still you do get an idea. In this case, there is no idea at all who the chief minister is going to be. So I think that is an indication that even the BJP is putting everything it has into the Rajasthan election.
Yeah. Chakri, now we'll of course know the results on the 3rd of December. Markets will be able to react to the results on the 4th of December. Let's look at the various permutations and combinations of what's possible. And if I look at it from the perspective of just BJP right now, 1 out of 5, here I'm discounting Mizoram because they're never a contender and not really in Telangana either. So 1 out of 3 is expected okay. 2 out of 3, very good. 3 out of 3, stupendous. Is that the way to look at it? And if I look at it from the Congress point of view, if they get 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 3, would that be a big beat or a big downer from the perspective of the BJP and markets?
In terms of the markets, I think 2 out of 3 would be clearly very positive because it kind of maintains the momentum on various spends. That is, whether it's infrastructure, railway, defense. These all have been the central government's focus areas, and that has kind of propelled. If you look at the latest GDP numbers, most of the growth has come from government spends. Private capex is still very weak. So a continuation of the same will be clearly beneficial. Now, in the case the equation tilts in the favor of the Congress, then it's a question of what are their priorities. Will defense, railways continue to be their priority? or not, and where the spend would go. Now, if it goes towards farm spending, then the market will have to shift focus, but it would lose clearly some of the momentum.
Okay, just one more point from you, Chakri, and something which Aditi was talking about, that what is fueling politics right now in India? In Madhya Pradesh, there's the Ladli Behna scheme, which for our viewers, just for some context, promises 1,000 rupees to every woman eligible in Madhya Pradesh between the ages of 19 and 60. On the 10th of the month, she will get 1,000 rupees in her account. So that has been a very popular scheme started earlier this year by the Shivraj Singh Chauhan government in all of the states, in Chhattisgarh, in Rajasthan, in Telangana. You are seeing large spends and promises of large spends by the state governments and potential people coming to power, potential governments, promises to put money in the hands of people, whether it's insurance coverage, whether it's just direct benefit transfer and cash payouts. Chakri, is the market factoring that in? Like we saw a run up in insurance stocks, and for a variety of reasons, but also because every state government is promising to cover more and more of the Indian public in terms of health, accident, etc., with insurance schemes. You're giving more cash payouts. Is this a factor that markets are looking at all? Because this is only going to increase going into 2024.
Absolutely right. In terms of post-COVID, the impact focus on health is clearly increased across the nation, and the nation and also the people expect that in terms of freebies, in terms of health coverage, or whether it is a small payout, some kind of small contribution towards insurance. So I think insurance will, or rather healthcare, including insurance, will be a very important focus area whoever comes to power. Second, in terms of what has happened with all the infra spending that we've seen, whether it is the roads, bridges, dams, etc., that has been metros that are being built, it has created employment of the construction workers, which is a very big chunk across India. Now, whether it is the state government or central government, metro work has been very strong. Railway work has been very strong. Railway is a central issue. And national highways building has been very strong. So this has generated a lot of employment, and that is also a factor which I think contributes to thinking of the people in who they vote for.
Just a word from you on all of these, call it freebies, call it braveries, call it infra spends, call it not infra spends, but social sector spends. We are seeing more and more of this. Is this becoming a big draw for voters and also for women voters specifically? I see a lot of schemes directed at women voters, like in Telangana, for example, the Congress has promised an electric scooter for every girl if they come to power.
That's for me?
Yes, Aditi.
Okay. So, yeah, so welfare spending is a very big issue, but it has different effects in different places. So, people are asking for more and more, and the governments are unable to find things that they can finance for low income groups. For me, this election is much more important because if the result does not go in favor of the BJP, the optics will be difficult. Going forward, we having put on the table the fact that assembly elections rarely affect, particularly of late, Lok Sabha elections, we could be faced with a situation where a strong and resurgent BJP in the Lok Sabha may be surrounded if the exit polls, they are predicting, some of them are predicting hung assemblies in both Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. If the BJP has a bevy of hostile, actively or passively hostile states to reform, and is still in power strongly at the center, what will that mean for ongoing reforms which the center has to helm? That is an issue that should concern the markets, if not worry them.
All right. So a lot to wait and watch. We're going to unpack all of this for you on 3rd December as well, and on 4th December before markets open. So do tune in. If you want to come in for very pointed research and data-driven coverage on the election polls at a time when you're going to have a lot of information thrown at you. So if you want that short, snappy, and specific information, do join us back on BQ Prime. Meanwhile, thank you so much, Chakri and Aditi, for speaking with us today.
Thank you so much.